Good Monday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Janice Shortle. New this afternoon, the man tapped to find and fight fraud in Minnesota is laying out his plan to get it done. Tim O'Malley was appointed by Governor Walz in December to lead the integrity program in Minnesota. O'Malley outlined 9 points from leadership and accountability to updating technology to better catch fraud and working with those impacted by fraud to make sure this doesn't happen again. He says our state has been vulnerable to fraud in its public programs since the 1970s, but no action to fight back has allowed criminals to steal taxpayer money for decades. There are several key areas in each pillar, including making it easier to report alleged fraud and then investigate it. And breaking this afternoon, the former UK ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. That's the same reason former Prince Andrew was arrested in the UK last week. Both men have come under intense scrutiny for their ties to Jeffrey Epstein after the release of millions of documents on the investigation into Epstein. Authorities say they're investigating allegations that Mandelson passed sensitive government information to Epstein many years ago. Police say he does not face any allegations of sexual misconduct. Big news today from Lindsey Vonn. She says she almost lost her leg to amputation following that big crash at the Milan Cortina Olympic Games. In a social media post today, Vonn said that the injury has been, quote, by far the most painful and challenging injury of her life. She shared that due to excessive trauma to one area, she developed compartment syndrome, and that syndrome involves pressure buildup inside the muscle, restricting the blood flow and leading to nerve damage if not treated quickly. She said that a surgery saved her from having her leg amputated. Lindsey Vonn crashed in the women's downhill just seconds into her run on February the 8th. Well, this afternoon, U.S. citizens in Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara, Cancun, and several other areas are advised to continue sheltering in place as a violent unrest continues to unfold in Mexico. That came after the Mexican army killed the country's most wanted drug cartel boss. He's known as El Mencho, and he was the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. They are known for trafficking huge quantities of fentanyl and other drugs into the United States. The White House officials say that the U.S. provided intelligence support for that operation. His death set off a wave of violence across western Mexico yesterday. Cartel members set roadblocks with burning vehicles in Jalisco and in other states. Tourists took images of thick smoke plumes and military helicopters flying around. At least one airport was shut down because of all the violence. Anyone with family or friends in western Mexico right now should stay advised on their location and well-being through phone communication and/or social media. We are also feeling the ripple effects here at home as travel to and from that area is being severely impacted. Within the last several hours, a final Sun Country flight to Puerto Vallarta from Minneapolis-St. Paul has been canceled. While no Mexican airports remain closed, major U.S. airports are taking cautionary action. We talked to a person from Minnesota who moved to Puerto Vallarta about a decade ago, and he said this is unusual for that tourist town.
Puerto Vallarta is really mainly a city. It's a tourist town, and it's noted for being a very safe place, a safe and enjoyable place to go.
The U.S. Embassy in Mexico advises travelers in the region to avoid big crowds, particularly in areas near any law enforcement activity. Well, this afternoon, a historic winter storm continues to move across the northeast part of our country. The high-impact bomb cyclone is bringing blizzard conditions, heavy snow, and damaging winds. NBC's Emily Akita reports from New York, and they are seeing a record-breaking level of snow.
Well, this is anticipated to be one of the top 10 worst snowstorms in New York City history as I trudge through what is officially 15-plus inches of snow here in Central Park and counting. And certainly while it is a beautiful scene in this park, it is dangerous out on the roadways, and that is why New York City officials are issuing a rare travel ban to keep people off the roads to allow those snow plows and emergency vehicles to continue to do their work. That is through noon today. At times we saw snowfall rates in parts of the north northeast, 2 to even 3+ inches an hour. That coupled with the really strong winds, which have also those gusts exceeding 80 miles an hour, have proven cause for concern, and it's why so many officials across the region are urging people to stay home. But I walked over here because I think this is a really telling scene of exactly the intensity of this storm. You look here, you can see just how much snow has piled up. This is a snow bench, believe it or not. I'm also going to walk over here to show you just the weight of the snow. We're talking about a wet, heavy snow, and you can see how it's weighing down on these branches. That proves problematic for power outages because the branches snap onto power lines. It's why hundreds of thousands of people are without power from Virginia to Massachusetts, and some energy providers say it could take days to restore as the snow continues to fall here in New York. I'll send it back to you.
Well, just in this afternoon, Nick Reiner pleads not guilty to the murder of his parents, Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner. This wasn't his first court appearance. This was, his first court appearance with his new attorney, who is a public defender, and he entered that plea on Nick Reiner's behalf. His previous attorney, a high-profile private lawyer, had to quit at the last hearing in January because of circumstances he says that were out of his control. He insisted at that moment, though, that he felt Reiner is not guilty. The renowned director, Rob Reiner, and his wife were found dead with multiple stab wounds at their home on December 14th. Nick Reiner has been held without bail since his arrest the same day, and he is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Prosecutors have not decided on whether or not they will seek the death penalty. Well, today, a Duluth man is facing possible assault charges after allegedly stabbing a police officer in the leg. Police arrested the 22-year-old man after midnight on Saturday after they say he struck an ambulance and then threatened paramedics inside. Police say when they tried to detain him, the man resisted arrest and stabbed an officer in the leg. That officer was taken to a hospital and has since been released. And developing news back here in the metro, police are looking for a shooter who opened fire at the Maplewood Mall yesterday. That shooting sent another man to the hospital. It drew a huge police presence on Sunday, and we're told it started with a fight between 2 groups. Police say 2 juveniles were booked at the Ramsey County Jail on suspicion of third-degree riot. The mall did reopen this morning after being closed down for the day on Sunday. Heidi Wigdahl has the details.
Come on, you guys, in here right now.
A Sunday out at Maplewood Mall took a turn.
Come on, everybody in.
I mean, I've been replaying that moment back in my head, all day.
William Swift, owner of the Enchanted Fantasy Film Museum, took in as many people as possible after hearing gunfire inside the mall.
I mean, at the time, there's a lot of, just like little kids there.
Maplewood police say officers responded to reports of a shooting just after 2 p.m. and found a man with a gunshot wound to the hip.
We saw all the kids just run the other direction, and we were just confused. And all of a sudden, one of our customers, their dad came in the store, and he quickly just yells, go to the back.
Kat Vang and Miranda Klein work at Hot Topic, close to where the shooting happened.
Of course, at first, everyone was just confused. You can't really process what happens until after it happens.
Witnesses say they heard what appeared to be teens to young adults arguing in the mall. It then turned physical, followed by the sound of at least 1 gunshot.
To be right there, to have it happen right in front of me, right in front of my shop.
Williams says it appeared to be 2 different groups fighting.
Guys, in here, in here, in here, in here, in here.
About 30 people took shelter in his museum until police evacuated the mall.
Everyone's faces, it was just terror. I did the best I could to just kind of keep it calm for everybody because it was incredibly scary.
The mall says because of their partnership with the police department in Maplewood, they were able to get there quickly. Again, as I said, police are still looking for a shooter described as a small-build Asian male wearing a black stocking hat, black jacket, white shirt, and black pants. Anybody with any information should contact police. Well, the Minnesota Freedom Caucus officially launches at the state capitol today. They say the Freedom Caucus is dedicated to advancing conservative principles and defending constitutional values. We know State Senator Eric Lucero is going to lead that caucus, but it's unclear who else is a part of that group. And taking a live look at our nation's capital this afternoon, where the Department of Homeland Security shutdown continues. Key votes today postponed due to that huge winter storm hitting the East Coast. This afternoon, some members of Congress have returned to work after they left D.C. last week without a funding agreement. Democrats are demanding changes to ICE before agreeing to any more funding for DHS. The White House says Democrats are refusing to make concessions. This afternoon, we're learning more about the man shot and killed by Secret Service and a local sheriff's deputy at Mar-a-Lago, President Trump's private residence in Florida. A Secret Service spokesperson said the man was in his 20s and had been reported missing a few days ago from the state of North Carolina. Officials say the man entered the club's perimeter around 1:30 yesterday afternoon, saying he was armed with a shotgun and a gas can. They say 2 agents and a deputy confronted him, and both agents and the deputy then shot the man.
He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat.
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were at the White House, not Mar-a-Lago, at that time. And this week, in fact, tomorrow night, President Trump will deliver his State of the Union speech. He's expected to talk about his accomplishments of the Republican-led Congress during the first year of his second term. And we're starting to hear more about the guests who will be going. Congresspeople can invite guests. We learned that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is bringing 4 people, including Aliyah Rahman. She's a disabled person with autism who was involved in an altercation with ICE several weeks ago. She was detained by agents on her way to a doctor's appointment in January. She required hospitalization upon her release from Whipple that day. Representative Omar also invited Mubashir Hussain. He's a U.S. citizen who was detained and taken to Whipple in December after immigration agents allegedly refused to check his ID. The son of Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark is also going to D.C. for the State of the Union. He will be the guest of Congresswoman Kelly Morrison. And early this morning, Pete Stauber announced he will be inviting Nick Shirley, a conservative YouTuber, as his guest. You can watch the speech and reaction to it on KARE 11 Tuesday night. That's tomorrow at 8 o'clock Central Time. Stay with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.